Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Primal Potential Podcast. I am Elizabeth Benton. Thanks so much for joining me. We recently wrapped up our 10-episode series called The Vault that was all about consistency. And today, we're going to go even deeper. We're going to kick off a new series today. It's going to be a 5-episode series. New episodes drop Saturdays and Mondays. I feel like sometimes the weekend can feel like it's a little bit of a content void. I know for me, there's shows that I follow and I feel like they drop during the week, which makes a lot of sense. So I love that we have Saturday episodes. We are going to be exploring why you keep losing in the same moments. And this series is going to be about the concept of defense. If you haven't heard me talk about it before, you're about to get real familiar with it. But the reality is there's a lot of people who feel very frustrated, especially as, hey, we're halfway through February. And I know so many people started January, New Year, thinking, all right, time to get serious. I have been putting it off through the holidays and everything's going to be different. And it doesn't take long for the exceptions to start creeping in. And the problem becomes, as we say yes to more and more exceptions, we start to get more and more frustrated with ourselves. What is wrong with me? I said this was it, and it's 2 weeks in, it's 2 months in, and I'm already breaking my commitment. I'm not doing the things that I said that I would do. So I want to kick off this episode and this new 5-episode series with the question, what is the moment in which you keep losing, right? Not the whole day, not your whole life, the few seconds where it flips. Maybe it's when your alarm goes off and your hand moves to hit snooze even before you feel like you've had a thought. But that's when everything starts to struggle because you said, I'm going to get up early. I'm going to work out. I'm going to start my day strategically. I'm going to be prepared. And you're not. You've done it a few days and it feels great and it works great when you do it. And yet it doesn't take long before you're like, well, I didn't sleep well last night. Well, I have that meeting this evening, so I should probably get a little more sleep. Just a few seconds where you lose against the commitment you said you were going to uphold. Maybe it's after dinner. You just walk into the kitchen just to see what there is, just to see, maybe you won't get anything, but you just want to see what your options are. And that's the moment over and over and over. Or maybe it's when you say, it's just this one thing. I've been so good. I'm going to do better tomorrow. A lot of people chalk these moments up as like the catastrophic failure. I did it again, and they blow them up. But the thing we need to realize is we're losing in moments that are so small that it feels easy to not treat them like a problem, right? Even if we're reflecting on the pattern, it feels huge, right? The inconsistency, the procrastination, the compensation, the justification, whatever it is, when we look back at the pattern over months or years or maybe even decades, it feels big and dramatic. But the problem day to day is that these moments where our momentum gets away from us and our commitments we walk away from, there are these normal moments that don't feel important to treat like a problem, right? It's true that it's been a long day. You mean it when you say you'll start tomorrow. This one thing really does feel too small to make a difference, and you think you do deserve it, and you agree that you don't have time. Those types of thoughts, they're not decisions, right? When you have this conversation with yourself, even if it's subtle, even if it's silent, even if it seems like it's unconscious, I deserve it, I'll start tomorrow, it's too small to make a difference, I've been so good, I don't even care, this one thing, whatever. These are not decisions. What they are arguments, tiny arguments, quick arguments. And if you don't show up consciously in that moment, and even sometimes when you do, that argument wins. And so this episode 1 in this 5-episode series, is about why that keeps happening. Why you keep losing in the same moments, and what it would look like to train for those seconds instead of hoping they're going to want it enough when those same seconds show up again, because they will show up again. I would imagine that most of you listening started the year with clear intention and clear goals. And now it's mid-February and you still care and you still want it, but you're looking back going, so it hasn't been amazing, right? You've been living inside these small exceptions that feel really justified. And we're not even, they're so small in the moment that they don't feel like they're big enough to create a problem. But when we get 6 weeks into the year, we're like, oh, nope, that's legitimately a problem. And the other element of this that is so discouraging is that there's those things, those patterns that are a real problem. But in other areas of our life, we're crushing it and we're super competent. But we still have these small few areas that are really impactful where we keep negotiating. We keep drifting, restarting, swearing it's going to be different, and then choosing the same pattern and feeling crappy about it. So I mentioned that this is going to be a series about defense. Defense is a concept that I first started talking about 9 months ago, maybe. What it is the training for the seconds where you talk yourself into exceptions. Okay. Defense is training for the seconds that happen where you talk yourself into exceptions. And the reason that I refer to it as defense is we're all familiar with offense, right? Offense is how most of us approach our goals, if not all of us approach our goals the majority of the time. I'm going to make this plan and I'm going to go execute it, right? These are the plays that I'm going to run. That's offense. I'm going to do more of these things. I'm going to add these habits. I'm going to change these patterns. That's offense. But the real threat is those moments where we talk ourselves into the exception. And that's where we need defense. That's where we need to protect. That's where we need to fortify, right? These aren't big dramatic moments. They're normal ones. And here's what if you're writing things down, if you're going to pause and go back and re-listen to a part again, I want you to hear this. You're not losing to food, to ice cream, to Mexican food, to the fast food drive-through. You're not losing to the snooze button, and you're also not losing to your schedule. You're losing to the moment where your brain makes a reasonable sounding case to step away, to drift. And you don't have a trained play, a trained response, hear me out, that holds up under pressure. Because we just go back to the plan. We just go back to the offense. We just go back to the commitment. We go back to, and so I need to do more of this and I need to be more disciplined and I need to have more willpower. Like, no. We need training. We need plays and practices for the seconds that happen where you talk yourself into an exception. I have been using a phrase in coaching that I think describes this really well. And the phrase is exception competence. Exception competence, where you have become highly skilled at making exceptions that feel super reasonable. And in the moment, it's justified. It might even sound like a good idea. You know, you're not fully conscious. You're not like making a pro and con list and having a formal debate with yourself. You're just like, yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense to hit snooze this morning. It makes sense to have a snack. One of the things I'm doing with my defense clients right now is I'm sharing with them how I'm opting into perspectives that support my standard when I constantly want to walk away from it in this specific situation. Like literally today, as I'm recording this, I'm doing a 24-hour fast. And so there are endless moments where I can justify and rationalize like, no, I'm going to break the fast and I'm going to eat because I'm going to sit down with my kids and have a meal, or because I'm feeling kind of hungry and I just did a workout, or like it seems logical and it seems rational, so much so that that's why it wins, right? Because it is logical. And yet there's also a perspective that allows me to uphold the standard, and that's what we get to practice. That's my defense that protects this decision to do a 24-hour fast. Right? You can make breakfast feel necessary even when you plan to fast. And you can make later feel reasonable even when you said you were going to do it right now. You can make it seem very reasonable. You can make quitting sound like self-care. You really can. And what makes this tougher to tackle is that our circumstances are always changing. So it's not like we're dealing with the same thing over and over again. We're not necessarily hitting snooze for the same reason. Maybe we're hitting snooze today because, the kids were up sick last night. And maybe we're hitting snooze tomorrow because we have a late meeting. And so maybe it makes sense to stay in bed. That is what makes it tricky. But what I need you to hear is that the permission logic stays the same. right? Same handful of seconds dressed up in new circumstances, right? And that is what we're talking about when we talk about exception competence. We've become really good at making our exceptions feel reasonable so that there's nothing to see here. This isn't a problem. This is logical. This is rational, right? There's a quote that I love it, and I think it's like ancient philosopher. Don't quote me on that. But essentially it goes like this. You're pointing your finger at the moon, but somebody's looking at my finger. So I'm pointing to the moon. You're looking at my finger, right? Most of us are staring at the finger. Like I'm saying, this is the problem. This is the problem. I'm pointing at the moon, but all you see is my finger. And what I mean by that is the moon in this example is the permission logic, right? It is the way, those few seconds where we make the exception feel reasonable, but what you're looking at, you're not looking at that. You're looking at the snooze button. You're looking at the ice cream. You're looking at the plan, but that's not what we're talking about. You know, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the seconds that happen where we have no defense. We have no fortification. And so it just seemed, permission logic. Yeah, I'm going to hit snooze. I'm going to have the snack. I'm going to skip the workout because I'm going to do it later. Truly, I'm going to do it later. We're obsessing over the surface thing, the food, the mood, the schedule, the circumstance. But the real issue is the permission logic. Here's why this exception makes sense right now. Even here's why this is a good idea right now. Or here's why this is no big deal right now. That is the opportunity, the permission logic. And as long as you're staring at the circumstance, you're solving the wrong thing. This is where people get really fooled because in the moment, it doesn't feel like a big deal. It is one exception. It is 10 minutes more of sleep. It is a commitment to start tomorrow. And that choice does feel too small to matter, but it's not the moment. It's the pattern. It is the way that your momentum and your follow through leaks out, a drip here, a drop there. And none of it looks dramatic enough to take seriously until you look up and you realize that weeks passed and we're back in the same place. That's why I'm going to be more disciplined doesn't work as a strategy, because discipline is not the plan for the seconds when your brain is like, no. This is logical. This is reasonable. This is acceptable. This is justifiable. So in this 5-episode series, we are going to break all of this down. And my primary goal is to bring your awareness to it. Now, the solve for it and the coaching around it and the tools and the practices and the strategies, those are all things inside the defensive playbook. Now, you guys have heard me talk about defense. And in fact, I have spent the last 3-ish weeks, a little bit more than that, responding to emails from dozens and dozens of you who connect with this idea, because I've been emailing about it and talking about it with those of you that are on my email list. And a lot of you are like, this makes so much sense, and I need this, and this is an approach that's different, but I can't afford your defense program. Or here's the other thing I hear that you might be in this camp. I can't afford it, but I'm just done spending money on things I don't follow through on, and I've spent so much money, and I'm no different, and no, I don't trust myself. And I understand because I've been there. I've been that girl. If I could hire a forensic accountant to go and calculate how much money I had spent before something really, really shifted for me, it would be a horrifying amount. I probably could have, I don't know, I could own a state, maybe even a country. Maybe I could buy Greenland. I don't know. That's on the table? Not a political joke, but I guess it was a political joke. The point being, I know how not only painful it is to have this goal and feel like you know what to do to get there, but you're not doing it. I know how painful it is to live in that. And I really don't want that for anybody. I think about my kids all the time because my struggle specifically with food, but also with money, my struggle with food, I honestly feel like it cost me decades of my life. I'm not kidding. I was the kid who didn't make friends in high school or college or my 20s because I was so insecure about my weight. And maybe that's not you and you have an incredible life, but not reaching your goal is costing you something. It's costing you something really, really significant. And then I see all these people on the sidelines who are so committed. They're reading books, they're listening to podcasts, they're setting goals, they're reading their goals, they're saying affirmations, and yet the struggle freaking continues. And it breaks my heart because there's an unlock available to you. And you guys know my dog's name is Rumi, right? Because of the poet Rumi. And one of my favorite lines from the poet Rumi is, "Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open?" And the thing that a lot of people say to me, and I've felt this way myself, is like, cool, the door is so wide open, and I know that, and that's why it's so frustrating because I know how to get where I want to go, and I'm not getting there, and that's why I'm saying defense is a different approach. Anyway, I could rant about that forever, and maybe we'll do that in another day. The point is, I told my husband I was going to do this, and he's like, "You're a lunatic," and that's typically how these conversations go. I wanted to put together a version of defense where you can get started and you can get access to the tools in a way that meets your affordability and also your willingness to invest in yourself. Because a lot of us don't have the willingness to invest in ourselves at the expense of the 8-week program where I'm in your playbook every day. And it's just like a very engaged and high investment of time opportunity. And so here's what it's going to look like. I am making available, we're just going to do it once. I'm not going to say this is ever going to happen again because we'll see how it goes. But March 1st, we are going to start Defense Foundation. It's just 4 weeks. At the beginning, you are going to get the full defense playbook. Okay. So this is from my own playbook and from the now over 100 people that have walked through the 8 weeks of defense and the patterns, the talkbacks, the tools for the actual defense approach, not the offense approach. Everybody has done the offense approach. You're going to get the playbook. You're also going to get 1 weekly training on defense and how to apply it to your life from me, and also live office hours every single week for the 4 weeks where you can get coached from me. You can ask questions. You can say, okay, I read this part in the book, but I don't know how to apply it to me. Or I watched this part of the training, but here's the trouble that I'm running into. So, and it is going to be a fraction of the cost of the defense 8 weeks. I mean, granted, it's only 4 weeks and you are going to get the full playbook. You're going to get weekly trainings. You are going to get weekly office hours. It starts March 1st. And here's the cool thing. The first 15 people who sign up are going to be able to get a full credit, if they choose to, for the full 8-week defense. So basically, if you sign up for Defense Foundations and you're like, all right, this is it. All right, now I'm seeing it. You can take penny for penny everything that you pay for Defensive Foundations and apply it to the full defense cohort if you want to work with me that closely, and you have a full year to take advantage of that. So it's not like you got to do it in the next one. Maybe spring or summer isn't the time for you. You can do it next fall. You can do it next winter. So I'm crazy excited about it. Again, it is a fraction of what the full 8 weeks of defense is, because I've just had so many conversations where like, I want this and I'm frustrated that it's so expensive. I get it. So it's going to be a 4-week program. We start on March 1st. Space is limited. And my sense from the conversations I'm having is that a lot of folks are going to be a part of this 4-week container. I'm going to be live with you every week for office hours. Plus you'll get the training. And honestly, the money is in the playbook. I know you're going to find it to be a radically different approach to change than anything you have seen before. So if you're listening and you're like, I don't need more ideas, I don't need another plan, or maybe a lot of people want another plan because that feels so good, but you're somebody that's like, I never follow the freaking plan to begin with. This is for you, right? And if you have questions, you got 2 options. Shoot me an email, elizabeth@primalpotential.com. I respond to everyone. Or keep listening to this series, but do not wait to grab your spot. This is going to be absolutely insane. I cannot wait. March is going to be the month that everything shifts. So we can stay inside the first quarter of 2026. And if you feel like the first 6 weeks haven't been what you want them to be, let's use that last month of the first quarter to unlock. Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? The links for this is going to be in the show description. If you've got questions, email me, elizabeth@primalpotential.com. I am been beyond excited for this. I know it's going to be transformational. I hope I get the opportunity to work more closely with you. One of my favorite things is getting to know people that are in my programs and groups, and it's just going to be fantastic. So shoot me an email if you have questions, Elizabeth@primalpotential.com. I will see you on the next episode.